Good morning, good afternoon. Maybe I'm not wrong to say good night also. Tambalame Sanjerum Bochi, Jabalame Tamjurum Bochi, Dambalame Gendurum Bochi, Jamne Concho Soba Sechiku. Kasa Cheshegnala, Sanji Rangi, Shalne Sumbe, Dani Daki Dayente, Dani Daki Goya in Soyatalango Samaya Tangoto. Dani Ranki Dain said, Da Carre, Da Nyoma Betoso. Pai Eva Chebayena, Nyoma Bajeti Shidon. Te Nyebola Church Pumpa Jeti Shidon, Sanji Sobarella, Dati Tulik, Chiltu, Da Chile Yoma, Da Nang Yoma. Te Nang se, Gandir. So Dorduna, Nyoma Betoso Shiki, Jeti Shidon, Kitsawan Davote, Chadam Mosum. Te Nane, 원주 줄어왔대 원주 때 장단이 군독에 똑바디 데 장매바지 니 세네 니 마케고 파들라 군독에 똑바 장매바지 니쿡 세겐테 광에 셔바 군시 롱도 두데 잘도요 잘네 양 밀람 세겐 미요 밀람 닝추르세 Nyima nawa nangshin bakcha chi wangji. Te kapsula yang namto kinjua rik mata wama o chi changame ba chik je ni tu du yung yor. Namto la ye na nyento, parto, sangto. Ta ko debo chabda. Nyento te changta mosum di dewe tokpa. Parme tokpa te chuni chu sabato. Meto de meto sabato. Parme tokpa. 상도 참바된 이제 대바당 당나라서 봐. 민중도 쫓아라서 봐. 다 상도인 거야. 되네 년도 라테네 매게 왔줄라서 봐. 참매가 알라서 봐. 매게 쫓당 참매 알라서 봐. 랭에 봐 사과에나 디 남에 년소숨을 제탁줘인 거야. 년소숨을 제치게 다 Guam, Checheke, Visandavo, Passport, the Carre, son. Niento Lutene, Chaba, Onsontam, Drill, Majarta, Trauto, Densim, Lomsim, Woko, Yojula Saba, Kunilante, Tene, Lenga Basapayana, Tiki Namiki, Nesosula, Jatajo Imari. Tene, Tesonsa, that dati rangi drain say the dati tampoya ngel samba chene dati tulwe ki tulgor tulwar chebala tulchegi nyebota karre san ta dati la tene dungal yoyar dungal namba na choba nyawala chadang dungal yedala dregum ki dungal mela chaga nachi ki dungal la soba lala 치퍼던 그 동안 라마이라 탑저 그 동안 다 동안 장랑 매봐요. 너는 막기 나르면 네 이야기 습비쩍 뭐 파르트 코르베 심자 다음째 메다바랑시 힘바탕 동안 기자를 맨다바리 이나양 되네 질 더컴 릭투 소컴 소캄 내리 줍든 숨에 젠체 무시 산다 텐르진베 션데 여바래 이나야 테다 탐제텐 메타페랑시 준도요 텐데송사 다테 동알기 주테 차당 몽숨 대 냠보 가래 잠바데 닝제 동료도 셔럽 오听아주 저랑서 망치하게 챙기를 때 이나야 샘을 수잔 냠슬랑고도 딱바라 쉬고요 냠슬랑나 발랑제 돌 냠수 말랑 밴드 다잉 툴 송아래 전전 암직 해봐지 암직 되게 매고 걸라 14번도 뷰타고 신게 여봐지 암직 거라 나자지 나 나자티 대매 강세 세바이나 대 작은 여봐 거랑 그 신도 매 마산에 암직이 신나 간다 용서 암직 해봐지 오 배트나신 알아서 담배추 퇴신 신신 냠수 말하나 대나시 차요 제가 산지 최대 자침벌이 14벌이 양다바지 지침바지 챙거나 로랑 망벌이 장거리 때 대다 탐지기 닝든 손 돌드나 스도 카시에 지나라 예신 동아야 바지 태순 사 먹어봐지 랑기 뇨웨기 예신 동아야 바 된다지다 산지 최대로 여대 바래 예 시 남샤 람진 남샤 제분 남샤 그래서 카사로 여바래 다 관계 토로 된다서 내가 나로나
Yesterday in the Dharma talk, I mentioned that the Buddha himself said, you are your own enemy and you are your own protector. This is something that each of us should think very well about. What is our enemy? Our enemy is our own afflictive emotions. If we were to subdivide them and try and classify them, we can say that there are 84,000 negative emotions, and their remedy is the 84,000 teachings of the Dharma. Our enemy is not outside of us. Our enemy is inside of us. It's the negative emotions. So how do we overcome this enemy that is found within all of us? Well, first, we should identify what that enemy is. And here it is the afflictive emotions, which we can say can be divided into many different types, but the root afflictive emotions are attachment and aggression and stupidity. These three are the primary negative emotions. And among those three, which are the ones that are most obviously present? They are attachment and aggression. Throughout our day, from the minute that we wake up in the morning until the moment that we fall asleep at night, we are thinking, aren't we? We have countless thoughts pass through our minds during that time. And then when we fall asleep, what happens is that the five sense consciousnesses dissolve into the all-ground consciousness, and we kind of faint for a moment, lose consciousness, and then we experience dreams. Right? The dreams are called, we call them sometimes double delusion. And what happens during the dream state is that based on the habits that we have accumulated during our daytime life, then we have all sorts of thoughts, one after the other, also in the dream state. And when we talk about thoughts, what types of thoughts do we experience or engage in? Well, we have negative thoughts, and we have neutral thoughts, and we have positive thoughts. Those are the three kinds of thoughts that we might have. And what are negative thoughts? Well, they are any kind of thoughts that are connected with attachment or aggression or stupidity. Any thoughts that are mixed with those afflictive emotions are negative thoughts. Neutral thoughts are thoughts like, water is water. A flower is a flower. That's a neutral thought. Those are examples of neutral thoughts. And positive thoughts, good thoughts, are like love. That's a good thought. And compassion, faith, pure perception, renunciation for samsara, feeling of weariness with the pain and suffering of samsara. These are positive thoughts. And when we have negative thoughts, those connected with attachment and aggression and stupidity, those negative thoughts cause us to engage in the 10 non-virtuous deeds. And when we engage in the 10 non-virtuous deeds, and when we engage in particular in what we call the 5 deeds of immediate retribution, this kind of very negative action, heavy karma, the result is rebirth in the 3 lower realms. That's certain. If you want to know what's the passport, what kind of visa do I need to get into the 3 lower realms, that's it. Negative actions, negative thoughts, and the negative actions that follow those thoughts or go along with those thoughts. Attachment, aggression, stupidity, pride, jealousy, hypocrisy, competitiveness. These kind of afflictive emotions are the passport to the lower realms. And if we, on the basis of those afflictive emotions, if we then engage in actions, these actions that are motivated by or connected with those emotions, then it's certain that we will experience the suffering of the 3 lower realms. So I said before, the Buddha taught that we are our own enemy. So what then does it mean here? How should we again understand this? Well, first, or what should we do about that also? Well, first, it's important for us to identify that our own afflictive emotions are the enemy. That's the first step. The second step is to tame them, to subdue those afflictive emotions. What's the remedy? What is the remedy for our afflictive emotions? Well, this knowing that this enemy is going to bring suffering. We have to acknowledge that on the basis of our afflictive emotions, we will suffer. And we can think about the different types of sufferings that beings experience in samsara. Hell beings experience the suffering of heat and cold. The hungry ghosts experience the suffering of hunger and thirst. Humans experience the suffering of birth, old age, sickness, and death. The gods experience the suffering of knowing that they're going to fall into a lower rebirth. Demigods or asuras experience the suffering of fighting, strife. The suffering that beings experience in samsara is limitless. It's countless. We can't identify every single moment of suffering because there is so much. And we need to acknowledge that within samsara, from the lowest hell to the highest peak or summit of existence, everywhere within samsara, first of all, everything is impermanent, right? The nature of samsara is that it is impermanent. And also, as long as we remain within cyclic existence, we will never be free from suffering. We can't get out of suffering. We can't get out of the net of suffering as long as we are stuck within samsara. And when we talk about samsaric existence, we talk about the desire realm, right? And we talk about taking birth within the desire realm. We talk about the 18 different aspects of the form realms, and then we talk about the 4 different experiences or the 4 formless realms. We can classify the experiences of samsara in this way, but all of them are impermanent. All of them are changing all the time. So again, what is the cause of our suffering? It's attachment, it's aggression, and it's stupidity, these 3. What's the remedy for that? It's love and compassion, and in particular also the wisdom that realizes emptiness, that comes to realize emptiness. Most of you already know this, many of you already know this, but it's one thing to know it, and it's another thing to apply it directly to your experience and put it into practice. And that's essential. We have to put the Dharma into practice. This is something that I say all the time, right? But it is said that if he practices the Dharma, then even a shepherd will be liberated. And without putting it into practice, then even a great scholar will remain deluded. And so it's essential that we practice the Dharma. There's no way around it. Here's an example. Think about a very skilled doctor. Imagine there's a very, very, very learned and skilled doctor. They know a lot. They know everything about illnesses and medicines. And that doctor, him or herself, is ill, very sick. Just knowing how to cure the illness doesn't help, right? For the doctor has to take the medicine. Without taking the medicine, the doctor cannot cure themselves from that illness. And so it's like that. Just listening to the Dharma teachings and thinking about the Dharma teachings is not enough. We have to apply them directly into our own experience. And that's the most important thing for us. And the Dharma is vast. It's so incredibly vast. It's so profound. There is so much detail there. If you wanted to know all of it, you could spend years and years and years and years studying. But the essence, the heart, the core of the Buddhist teachings can be expressed in just a few words. And if we gain a sense of certainty, which we can gain a sense of certainty about those key core teachings, such the kind of certainty that leaves us totally free from doubt. If we gain that kind of certainty, then we can put the teachings directly into practice. And those kind of teachings that really condense the key, the pith of the Buddha Dharma such that we can gain certainty in them and put them into practice, that exists. Those teachings do exist within the Buddha Dharma. So there are presentations, of course, about the ground and the path and the fruition. This is mentioned extremely clearly in the Dharma teachings. So please, I would like to ask all of you to keep this in your heart.
Tamba Tuji Janji, Sumbiki Chuchu Tama, Sondorduna, Karma Rabre, Marmeta, Juma Silva Churd, Milam Lotan, Kinta, Decision, Deta, Hassan Shubare, Tishin, Neja Culture, Tamba Tuji Janji, Yodo, Joke, Shogi, Semata, the Lamsa, Temaji Jor. Tene, Chenam Tamji, Gillicho, Teju Tejin, Ship, so. Didn't know no number not so but tender to Jonathan. Nang Shabachi, Tenjin, Denju, Mai, but Chonga Yobo, Maino. Teacher tender Mai, but Chonga Yoba, Maino, said that it to call Yabulena, the Sanjeki, soon. Kitch, Ka-Nying Badavate, that to your dental to Jong said. That 다 냠서 랑술 텔라 대바지야 메사시 개와판 좀 소버지 랑게 섬네 요순 전도 산지 담바이서 다 담배추 지다 셰자라 마모 바지 고나 아 메타바이 바 셴고레 두체게 최탐 짐딱 바이 바 셴고야 대야 락베메다 차베메다 신도 차베메다 다 메다 그 코르티 야포치 셴나 야포치 거tum나다 Mita pala tena tongi to tsuyore. Tati kapte shaane, don na, sheche chi namsha atsamchi shenko na ya, mita patang, tene, tenjin renshung, ta tenjin renshung se, te shenko are. Chumta tsamchi la jangbay chendo yoke, jirda shecha, Sanjay song chöte, Sanjay be tumta jambo mare. Korang only nature. Yesterday I said law of nature. Re, chuni re. Chetamchi ki chuni, chetamchi rangshi sugoyo. Te sonsa nangba ina anda, nangba men anda, te shegoya shindu nature kalcho mare. Da nyamlen che, sayante, da nyamlen che de yona, da dekpa pangkora, kasa shuba nashi. Mega wa jute, tuk da zunzem. Mege 대외장 대바치한테 참매방아 세계래 파세바 마세바 다좀바세바 대신시 꿀래 년생 그 차용아 겐드콜로 연체바 다들 참매방아 니바 첨벌 아 참매방아 니베 참매방아 되네 메게주 라 소바 메게 와테 더 따준 잼네 빵과야 돼 아주 산지비 진족게 냠래 채술 칼치슈 때 당보테인 바탕 대야 저라서 가산 천천발이 주바래라 디나노 소주바 마진발렘반 dolorso 루키 냐바틴다가 가서 지금 말했대 주 차마 식수 낙찰 생각해서 양양요 준첨보 디나네 준첨보도 도슈래 똑같은 보면요 똑같은 보여라 냠도 매네 냠도 열라면 네바 치슈 메출라면 준 줄탐제는 준 독셔들 되는 나세게 야와샤다 너비준 요래 야 펜비진 요래 야 펜님에 매비기진 펜바 매바 네바 매바 제모다 데비진 같은데 준비를 막고 요래다 준 탐제는 나한테 독셔때 퇴상그 샤라 매발라 퇴상그 샤라 연동도 검정 그 냠도 매네요 검정 그 냠도 동도 셰바티게 딱 밀르도 랑 고거 랑게 샤랑 고거 따티 맨나서 녀가 첨버래 인라야 땅아지 관계 삽삽쳐 그래 젤레 나초랑도 라서바 저도 만부가 송도 되니만 나도 값을 퇴롱 매베 건데서 최장도 장롱이야 말해 년롱이야 말해 장롱 시라면도 년롱 시라면도 검장 남산 검장이 나 검장이 그 등산 라페 뭐 보여 나 스트레스도 검장이 나 unhappiness도 검장이 unhappiness 다 스트레스 장밖에 싫도록 검장인데 검대다 가르쳐 시작이 검탑도 그래 검탑도 검 생각때 말이 인지 떨어져가지고 검 거래. 되네. 검작 생각하려 원해시나 니요 말해. 탑기 차직도 셔럽 차직. 탑지 차대 로도 남바시 거래야들. 온도 뭔가게 값을로 되는 알아서 잠도다 샘지. 진짜 검 거래. 자비고 건조성 검 거래. 심지 로루 심지 공거래 잠인지 공거래 동래 공거래 야 안에 지름 공거래 지다 학도야 공거래 공검사 밀로 검사 다대 탑지차래 셔럽지차대 저배 타탐진다 달와 심지 취니 동살 송주 너마쳐야 돼 힘바래 어때 다 검샤마테 동살 송주 너마쳐야 돼 힘바래라 대 밑에 탐지도 달와 쫄와 탐지도 달와 다 들리지 여다 말이 인다 말이 텔라라네기 이셰 란종게 제과 데미시지 넬루 송거요 대답 넬루 때 또고요 때 똑바르셔발라 되네 초 마산의 디반메다 디반마다 나 똑바르미제 소 텐델 때는 소사 딥장게 이렇게 제거해서 가르쳐버려라. 텐델 때문에 검 센터를 고발내나 맥바드 집에 검 가가 탑리. 맥대 탐지도 잘 이렇게 되네 심지 춘이 무엇이었는데 대강 정원이나 다티 셔럽리. 검라 나서 얘나 텐델이 말이에요.
The Buddha, who is so incredibly compassionate, taught that we should view all compounded phenomena as being like a star, like an optical illusion, like a flickering lamp, as illusory, like a drop of dew, like bubbles upon water, like a dream, like lightning. This is, the Buddha said we should regard all compounded phenomena like this. This is very important. I mentioned this yesterday. We should bring this to mind first thing in the morning when we wake up and remember that all compounded phenomena are impermanent in this way, that they're impermanent like this. And then also it is taught that all phenomena arise from causes, and the Tathagatas taught what those causes are and taught how to eliminate those causes, to bring those causes to cessation. So the fact that all phenomena arise from causes is a statement about dependent origination. And all phenomena, as it is said, there is not a single phenomenon which does not arise dependently. And what that means is that there's not a single phenomenon that is not empty. This is a very important statement, and if we understand this correctly, then we really understand the heart of the Dharma. The heart of the Dharma is dependent origination, to understand properly and correctly that phenomena arise interdependently, in dependence upon one another. And then if we want to practice the Dharma, as I mentioned, the instruction for putting the teachings into practice is do not engage in any negative deeds, gather virtue excellently, and tame your own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. In order to practice the Dharma, what we need to do, what we need to come to know when we study the Dharma, is to understand objects of knowledge correctly, to be free from delusion with respect to these. And in order to do this, we need to understand impermanence. And impermanence, there's a coarse level of impermanence, there's a subtle level, and an extremely subtle level of impermanence. If we understand impermanence well, very well, this actually brings us much closer to and helps us come to a realization of emptiness. So understanding impermanence is something that's extremely important. And again, when it comes to a presentation on outer phenomena, we need to come to understand their impermanence, to understand that all of these phenomena are impermanent, but not just impermanent, that they're impermanent and they arise in interdependence. This is key to understanding the Buddha Dharma, and this is what is taught in the philosophical teachings in the Buddhist in the Buddha Dharma. But again, when it comes to the Buddha Dharma, it's not that the Buddha only taught things that are Buddhist. I mentioned yesterday, right? I said that the Buddha basically taught natural law, just the nature of things, the way things are. So that's something that's important for us to know, whether we're Buddhist or not Buddhist. In fact, just to understand correctly the way things are is very important for us, no matter whether we're Buddhist practitioners or not. But if we want to practice the Dharma, if that's something that we want to truly put into practice, then for that, we have to begin, as I mentioned already yesterday, with the practice of abandoning non-virtue. And that means to avoid the 10 non-virtues as if they are poison, to completely avoid or abandon the 10 non-virtues. And also, of course, to avoid the 5 deeds of immediate retribution. These 5 deeds, very heavy negative deeds, they are killing one's father, killing one's mother, killing an arhat, drawing blood from the Tathagata with an ill intent, with an evil intention, and causing a split in the Sangha. These are the 5 deeds of immediate retribution. And then there are also the 10 non-virtues, which we have already discussed as well. And it's very important that we abandon those, that we completely avoid these non-virtuous deeds. This is the first and most important foundation for our Dharma practice, to avoid non-virtue. And the non-virtuous deeds of body, the physical non-virtuous deeds like killing and stealing and sexual misconduct, it's not very likely that we're going to engage in those negative deeds. But where we have to be more careful is with the deeds of speech. The non-virtuous deeds of speech are to lie, to speak harshly, to speak divisively, or to just idly chatter and gossip. And here we have to be more careful, because it is possible that we might engage in these non-virtuous deeds. And when it comes to lies, there's big lies and small lies. Big lies are like saying that you have realization when you don't. That's a serious lie. Saying, oh, I have realized the Dharma, I have experience in realization, if you haven't. Pretending that in that way is really the worst kind of lie. Lies are of different types. There's harmful ones, beneficial lies also exist, as well as lies that are neither beneficial nor harmful, just like when you're joking around or something like this. But again, the worst lie is really to say that you have, that you've gained experience through studying and reflecting on the Dharma when you haven't, or to say that you have a meditative experience when you don't. This is a real serious lie. You're fooling other people, and it's actually, you're deceiving yourself too. You're deceiving yourself and others, and it's very dangerous, actually, to lie in this particular way. A number of great masters, like Tili Natsar Guangzhou and others, said that during the degenerate age, people don't want to make time to study, but they immediately want to know the Dharma. And they're not interested in making time to know the Dharma, but they want immediately to practice it, right? Just jump right in without having really learned anything. And so here, sometimes people think, oh, I'm stressed out, so I'm going to meditate. Or I'm unhappy, so I'll meditate. Getting rid of stress or unhappiness is not the real point of meditation. Meditation is done to remove dualistic ignorance. That's the function of meditation. That's why we meditate, to be free from dualistic ignorance. And when we talk about meditation, we can divide it into two different aspects. The aspect of meditation that's connected with method, or meditation that's connected with wisdom, these two different aspects. The aspect of meditation that is method is, for example, to meditate on the 4 thoughts that turn our mind towards the Dharma, these 4 mind changings, or to engage in the preliminary practices, the ngundro. We talk about, meditating on taking refuge and bodhicitta. We have to meditate on refuge and bodhicitta. And we do, actually. It's important to do that, to take refuge. It's important to cultivate bodhicitta. And we can use the word, meditation here. We can talk about meditating on compassion. We can talk about meditating on the generation stage or the perfection stage. And we can talk about, in general, meditating on vipassana, actually, a general type of vipassana. We can use the word meditation here. This is the aspect of method. The aspect of wisdom, when it comes to meditation, is completely free from any type of conceptual elaboration whatsoever. It is to remain within the nature of mind, just as it is. That empty, lucid state, the state which is the unity. Actually, it's an uncompounded, unconditioned state, which is the unity of emptiness and clarity, or emptiness and cognizance. And to remain within that state, that is meditation. It's a state which is totally free from any kind of focus. It's a state that is totally free from any type of effort. We talk about that. We call it self-arisen wakefulness, self-existing awareness, Rigpa, the natural state itself. This is what we need to gain realization in. We need to realize this directly. And it is said, in fact, though, that if we don't first gather the accumulations, then we will not be able to purify our obscurations. And without purifying our obscurations, it's difficult or impossible for realization to arise within us. And so this is why we train in meditation. This is why we meditate. So again, when we talk about meditation, we can talk about a type of practice that involves a conceptual focus. That's can be called meditation in terms of the aspect of method. And then when we're talking about a practice that is completely free from any type of conceptual reference or focus point at all, recognizing that state directly and sustaining that, remaining within the continuity of that state, that is what we call the aspect of meditation that's connected with wisdom.
Nga ke Nyimi Jundang Chama where's the Chama chair? What the Chama chair? Where ta shot? Where ta okta? Shokta Chama chair. Tubu Matu so the bay Nyabachumber. Dembra now at the Pampachumber. Dembra now. Patient Chitsup saying the Tinane Chik Topu Chik Topu to the Shavina. T Semla Shema to be Donny. Tell a Shapa Machena. Tapan the Chitsup Shen the Jamachana Tang, it's Shamatanga Norso. So Pai. Shangdong Machena, the Miss Semla, Pajo make it simple Latin, Shane. Madama Yena, Mesa, Mechuna Tagiri. 6 of saying take it, one is some message, not a Shabasogri. They are Nimachi 다와지 로지 로네 로 저는 찍찍을 찍게 봐시네 됐음라 컨텐츠 대바이나 내가 좀 봐요 그래서 식습생 달라가지고 도안시 보셔 내가 그냥 받침 버려 저다 참아 식습 낙찰 딱 낙찰 때 되게 춘직된이 춘 직된 바이나야 낙찰 라가 되게나 안에 레 잡아셔라 제도 말 다 메디케이션이 두두두두 소소 내가 제 맞도 말 근데 차그래 쇼바이나 칸데 계절 곰 냠래 제 메토 봐 대외에 봤다 대매백게 좀 마보시 배우게들 주도 거 봤는데 주도 거 봤으면 잠들린 거 주도 이제 계속 담배를 셔도 주도 거 봤어 그래서 또 나설 때에 받침 버려 그래서 다 몇개 쭉 가지고 왜 메신 봐요 말에 때 아주 잼백에 신이 몇개 왔지 근데 대빵 거야 때 아주 냠랭게 림베나데 림바 탕고 나버데 내가 메타 메바 들을 때네 아니 신에 몇개 왔지 빵네 아셈테베 셈장 맞아요 셈장 맞아 류장 맞아 nga chang ma sa lunga yesu chang ma cha shiwa cha sang wa ta shiwa cha pen nga zo nga dang yo om a hung se da om dum se da o nga chen so de yo de nga ke da ti ki lu ke zalo ti le ke je lu ke toxic toxic nge ba te me ba so yo lu chang ma so yo nga le ne ba te yo petition도 미게 왔지도 빵나 이 르게 토스 르게 르메상와도 짱마서요 대신도 빠돌지심 비 컴피티션에 르메상와다 나 메상와다 이 메상와다 짱마서요 그치라 갈지 말해 간주 짱마서 생인데 그 빡빡디 나는 샤요르 티나는 루고다 짜다 짐바다 짜파 간데 비게 짧반델라 델라티 축 추추네 에타 tema sangpo chungna ita kar marmar ngo sir chungna ita jencha tauna ita da meta chedo ina dene mesabe kombre meta perashiri te quarantine jiyo bare tangbo shena ngarang ke tinde lagu yo de 24 hour not 24 hour since we born to die, this is toilet. Toilet is within ourselves. We think that toilet is clean, that toilet is not clean. The outside toilet we can make clean. This toilet, nowhere to make clean. Eating with toilet, going with the toilet, sleep with toilet. Romantic taps, we're holding toilet both sides. And we never think, so 미사회 공부서 sombre nek 짧아래 미사회 짧아서는 네 공부를 나 축셔 툭 아차 알아 아차 안나서 다들 루스 대소자 다다다 쉬고야 돼 준다 타마 측수 막찰 티갈라 납셈 단 잠블링데 다 단당 알아서 내가 전부 나라 여바르티 여가 좀센터 가르쳐 버렸잖아 테크놀로지 담는 보세요 펜베 테크놀로지만 보세요 메체를 왔다 네 저거 네 나살은 저거 다 두어요 대뱀 빼면서 야고요 대신도 양 잠리 최용들 탈라 나셔서야 근데 그 출처야 쇠버 그래서 수쇠버래 락 쇠버래 근데 라 독자지 가봐요 제 쇠버래 근데 제 독수 진짜 수요 수쇠버래 미 소요 미 소가 짐생 가르래 짐생들 납셈했다네요. 납셈. greedy. 납셈했대. 파초트 납셈. 납셈티 슈치어도 납셈티 레벨. 납셈티기 팔은 납셈티기 니갈 노요. 팔은 라는. 도르나 잠 산제게 흉나라 산지 좀 되고 제주네바 삼매첩 땡 나주네바 삼매첩 땡진 네바 삼매첩 소열 되네 대값을라 산지 초대 다르시다 다르요 나 네바 예바 미하고요 땡인젤로 네바 쳐봐요 하고요 제주네바 세네 가르레 쇼바 제생 두타랍로 네바 쳐봐요 그 단다 차라서 약고저 거토 말해서 다 로니자 니동 앞지 젤라다 둘 두텐 천차서 민코랄라 둘텐 천차서 다 좋아 그 산제기한 네지 냄서서 냄 네다 먹게 망툭 숨소야 망툭 기차와다 둘텐서야 근데 냄서 근데 무게서요. 무게티 종아 달랑 사이주 냠도래서 종아 나티 달랑 근데 environment unbalanced. 친 종아 나티 투용주 낭 르크 컴데 투 르컴 투 셈투 친녀지지된 투나 심쟁기 르드 투 르당 근데 르투바 장지마 셈투 롱아 예수 툭 유캔 쓰레 나도 상례야보다는 나 납센테죠 납센텔라 첸다바야 말해 나디 톱 내가 톱 나타 딕송 삼바다지 야 첼렌데 데바 첼렌데 데바 소사 되네 다 냥가요 냥가 됐다부게 냥가 텔레 잡거나 되네 출룩하게 수수 그 덤발라 사왔답나 되게 떼스떼스 팽겨열 때 양탑 팽토 라검나 팽토고 마 데나 팽토 다 냠래죠 냠래 다 아치네 검데나 용 라검데나 용다 가르쳐는 다 닝적거리 닝제 되게 내가 가르팽거도 라라 가르팽거도 셰라 가르팽거도 내가 가르팽거도 타르도 가르팽거도 따텔라마 제바 쟤는 야고하고리 닝제 라라 팽거리 닝제 오지 줄이 자원다 나를 르라 톡스게 메레 르가 예섬데 시와당 짱마차 닝제 라라 팽거리 셰라 르페 꿀 팽거리 대소자 그 간전지 종로 산지지단 바 다르게 깝트나라 조제 빠데 아디샤 게 되는 최초 콜로리 뭐 망보 거라 점점 망보 소하리 되는 점점 망보 소도 콩크셀라 점점 와 쇼하리 라마 점점 와 프레밍 따시네요 봐 되는 콩크 멘달 망보 소 멘달 캐 되는 딱 콩크 송베게 낭마쳐서 가가 할레베게 사보다 셈리 펜버여 봐. 그 로마초 그 컨디션에 쿠와 드럼섬 라사베게 체제테네 송베게 담주테 아주 셈라시다 펜보다 뭐그 내추 체마 덴바 로아 메바 샤다 송도 딱 아주 셔라 메바 소자 셈랭 게 깔카부도 다 체크 송 추술 삼에 나네 다 같이 뭐 측한 찍는 류샤고 즉 소라나 당마치 소라나 소바다 되네 빠데 아디샤게 티 텔레 텔렌텔 닝제 쳔보 소라 마하카루나레 소라 텔라 텔샤라 대 고치 쳔보요 그 별 간전 용내 소데 되네 자나당 다 코리아당 자판 라서바 라 택생기 최타요 택생기 최게 짜와도 닝제리 닝제를 때는 대파다고요 닝제를 때는 삼보동반이 또 줘요 닝제를 때는 랑 돌도요 닝제를 때는 셴 돌도요 닝제를 때는 샬을 짠지마 닝제를 때는 랑기 랑을 내가 지금아 닝제를 때는 꼴라 편죠 닝제 까르포직 닝제 맛은 내가 좀 택생 값을라 다 닝제 텔레 갈치스다 내가 초 대사고요 백바 대다고요 사모 동반이 텔레 때네 또고요 신도 내가 갈치 버려 대강게 돌려야고 샤로나 틴델레 때네 배바스가 엄마니 빼면서 되거든 던다 신발
The negative deeds of speech include telling lies and also speaking divisively, dividing others in speech. And you can do that directly, you can do that indirectly, and you can do that in a very indirect way. Use your speech to separate and divide others. Also, another form of non-virtuous speech is to speak harshly towards someone, to speak in a way that is so painful to them that they can't bear it. It can cause actually unbearable pain when someone speaks harshly to another person. And the only way to remedy that really is to apologize. And if you don't apologize for having spoken harshly to someone, then often it's so painful for them. You know, if you're sick, you can take medicine and get better. But there isn't any medicine to heal from the pain of having been spoken harshly to. Sometimes if you speak harshly to someone, they suffer for years and years and years. So much pain, so much suffering can come from speaking unkindly, speaking harshly to others. And then also there's idle gossip and idle chatter. And this really gets in the way of doing all kinds of beneficial things. You can't really get much done of anything when you're just chatting idly, gossiping. And it's a real waste of time also, especially for a Dharma practitioner. It gets in the way of doing recitation, practice, engaging in virtue, engaging in meditation. Idle gossip and chatter gets in the way of that. And it also just creates a lot of difficulty and keeps us out of practicing effectively. So it's very important that we avoid these non-virtuous deeds of speech. And that's something that we must do. This is really the first stage of our practice, to avoid all of the 10 non-virtuous deeds. It's the foundation of our practice, and it's essential. You can't practice the Dharma really without this foundation of avoiding the 10 non-virtues, because it keeps our mind from being clean and pure if we engage in those. And when that's the case, then our body is not going to be clean, and neither is our speech. But if we avoid the 10 non-virtues, our body, our speech, and our mind all become more clean. And when that happens, we become more at ease, more peaceful, more calm. And so just like when you say a mantra, for example, Om Ahung or Om Dung or whatever the mantra is, the function of the mantra actually is to can purify a lot of the toxic aspects within our body. The winds and channels and energies can be, that toxic quality can be purified through mantra recitation. So just like that, actually also just engaging in, avoiding the 10 non-virtues, engaging in virtue and avoiding the 10 non-virtues, this can purify a lot of toxicity in our body, in our speech, and in our mind. That's why we do Vajrasattva practice as well, right? The Vajrasattva practice is a way of purifying the unclean aspects of our body, of our speech, and of our mind. And when we talk about the unclean aspects of our body, actually our body is just a heap of impurity. It's covered by skin, so we don't notice it so much. But if, and because it's covered by skin, then we think it's nice and clean and so on. But inside, it's just a heap of impurity. We put some nice scents, nice smells on the outside of the body, and then we think it's nice and we find it attractive, or we put all sorts of colors, a little bit of red here, a little bit of whatever color here, there, all over our skin, and then we think that makes it really nice, and then it feels attractive. We put jewelry on, and all of that jewelry, we then, we feel that this is what, makes the body more attractive, and then we feel attracted to bodies on that basis. But what's inside is actually really unclean. It's really impure. And Rinpoche gave the example of the fact that we're walking toilets from the moment of birth until today. The body is actually just a heap of impurity, just covered by skin. It's also just ready to get sick or to hurt at any moment, right? Just give it a little pinch. Ow! Burn it. Ow! Right? We're always ready just immediately to experience pain. The body's just at any minute ready to be hurt, to become ill, to become sick. And so this is what our bodies are like. It's important then that we avoid the non-virtuous deeds as a way of purifying our body, our speech, and our mind. And then, so we've mentioned the non-virtuous deeds of speech, lying, speaking divisively, speaking harshly, and idle chatter and gossip. There's also the non-virtuous deeds of mind, to be covetous, to be greedy. This is a non-virtuous act, mental non-virtuous act. And this is a real problem in the world. When we look around, we can see that a lot of technology has been developed in the world, and some of it's very beneficial, right? We can live longer due to technology. We can heal more quickly from illness due to technology. These kind of things are all very helpful, very good, very beneficial uses of technology. But we also can look around in the world and see that there are technologies that are capable of destroying the entire world in a single instant, reducing it to dust. Those kind of technologies exist. Who made that? Who created those kind of technologies? Was it some kind of god? No. Was it a demon? No. It's people. People are the ones who created the technologies that can destroy the world in a single instant. Why did they create those kind of technologies? Because of greed. Because of covetousness, because of wanting something that belongs to others. And that covetous attitude turns into ill will, the attitude of wanting to harm others. And when you harm someone else, you think you're going to, get rid of them over there, but it always comes right back at you. And so harming others inevitably is also harmful to yourself. The Buddha, in the Buddhist scriptures, the Buddha mentioned the power of substances is inconceivable. The power of mantra is inconceivable. The power of samadhi, of meditation, is inconceivable. And at the time of the Buddha, people knew about mantras and they knew about meditation, samadhi, so that made sense a little bit already. But what about substances? The power of substances is inconceivable. What does that mean? Well, the Buddha talked actually and knew about, was aware of the power of atoms, actually, this, subtle particles. 2,500 years later, we now also know about the power of those subtle particles. We call the atomic bomb, right? The word atom is part of that. It is an atomic bomb. And so these kinds of the power of things like subtle particles, atoms, and so on is something that the Buddha was familiar with already 2,500 years ago. Also in the Buddhist scriptures, we see reference to pandemic. We see references to the fact that pandemics will come about, also famine and warfare. These three things are mentioned together as things that will take place in the world. And it's mentioned, right, that again there will be pandemic as well as famine. And the cause of famine, it is said, is an imbalance in the outer elements. So the 5 outer elements in the world, when those become imbalanced, and it's actually said in the text that the 5 elements themselves will arise as our enemies. And when the 5 elements arise as enemies, and the quality of the earth and the water degenerates, the outer environment basically degenerates. And then when there's that imbalance and degeneration of the outer environment, the result of that is that our inner environment, our bodies, which are also made of the 5 elements, these also will become unbalanced and disturbed. So the disturbance in the outer environment disturbs the inner environment of our bodies, and that disturbs our mind. So in this way, when the outer world, the vessel-like world, is imbalanced and disturbed, then we experience disturbances in the sentient beings that live within this world as well. And what causes those imbalances? What brings that about? Also, we can say greed, covetousness. Covetousness, greed, doesn't have a limit. That's the problem with it. It's not that we want things and then once we get them, we say, okay, now that's enough. It's fine. I have enough. I don't need any more. It's not like that. When people have greed, greed always extends to the next object. So we are constantly chasing after something else, wanting something else. And then we suffer as a result of that. It brings a lot of imbalance and suffering in the world. So how should we protect ourselves from that? Well, in some religious traditions, people think, oh, well, maybe if we just pray to God to be free of that, then that will help. Maybe it helps, but it's not enough, actually, to reduce that. Even just meditating on the deity, doing deity yoga, also not enough. Reciting mantras is also not enough to remedy that. We have to really put the Dharma into practice. We have to really practice. How? Shamatha? Is that how? Deity yoga? Is that how? No, these are not sufficient. What we need is compassion. Compassion. Compassion brings benefit immediately. It brings benefit to you. It brings benefit to others. And it brings benefit that is long-lasting. Does it do those things? Well, if you just check, if you just examine, if you only investigate, you will find that in fact it does. Definitely compassion is beneficial for you. Being compassionate will help you. Why? We talked about this toxicity, toxic body, speech, and mind. Those toxic elements of your own body, speech, and mind are purified and pacified through compassion. And when that happens, we become more peaceful, more at ease. And of course, being compassionate is beneficial for others. Of course, that's clear. And in the snowy land of Tibet, in the past, when the Buddha Dharma spread to Tibet, there was one great master who came from India to Tibet, and his name was the Lord Atisha, the glorious Lord Atisha. And he taught a lot of things, many different teachings. In particular, he focused a lot of his teaching on refuge. And so the Tibetans called him the Refuge Lama. That became one of his names, a name by which he was called. He also taught a lot about the benefits of making mandala offerings, offering the mandala. But his students made a request of him. You know, he gave extremely profound teachings, and quite a lot of teachings, very beneficial teachings, teachings that are profound and that really help our minds, the minds of his disciples. But some of his students, in particular, the students called Ku and Ngok and Drong, those 3 students, they asked him, they said, you know, your teachings are so beneficial, it really helps our mind, it's really beneficial, but we're not so sharp. And if you say a lot, it's hard to really keep everything that you teach in our mind. Can you please just teach the essence of the Buddha Dharma in just a few words? Can you just give some pith instruction, please? That's very simple, very concise. And Atisha gave a reply to that. And he said, great compassion. That was his reply. Maha Karuna. Great compassion. That was the reply. And there is quite a lot to understand simply by those words. when we practice the Buddha Dharma in Tibet, we're practicing the Mahayana. This is also the form of Buddhism that is practiced in China, as well as Korea and Japan, and spread to many of these countries. The Mahayana Dharma spread to all of these countries. And the real essence or heart of Mahayana practice is compassion. Compassion itself will purify our negativity. Compassion itself will bring us to the realization of emptiness. Compassion will liberate you. Compassion will liberate others. If you have compassion, you will never harm someone else. If you have compassion, you will never harm yourself. If you have compassion, you cannot harm. You cannot do harm when you have genuine compassion. And so compassion is really like the single remedy for all of our afflictions. It is the one thing that is so essential for us. Without that, it's quite difficult to really bring benefit. Compassion itself gathers the accumulations. Compassion itself purifies our obscurations. Compassion itself brings us to the realization of emptiness. Compassion is so essential. Please, please keep this in your heart. And compassion is why Tibetans are always saying this mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum.
장섬 예나 지체 개와인 테켈레 투서레베.
If you have bodhicitta, everything you do is virtuous. Do you believe that? Can you accept that?
Yes or no? Yes or no? yarse chimbo shivala ke soare shedanda bu devane chambada bu gewame sobada bu katume soare te kam meche ke de samo ngajo sembla pembo orela te inchi meche ngajo nisha chuji ke kapsula tene sobada bu katume ta katume no chodo juba sobaredo wasa sobagum chambada bu gewame chamyeji changshu samde yaya jole jawache shedan tabu dikwane sa shedan tel benzem tende chate tende kshindne je kalchi bare tende tulo shaya tang tene tanda loben chobo dawa topic omalan jupa sa ngaju jangi yore pena ba sanji be ki dishara tanda chimbo chen jeba zorden ba omalan jupa dawa zorden ba oma zawa sharap sa dawa sharap te kalchi bare zawa sharap nan 칼슘을 대체하는 바 도나 나로나 답답디르다 라준시 셔를 오만은 좀 받치기요래 오만은 좀 이렇게 쳐줘대 빨된 다와타바기 가르송하르서 산제 자주 선바 레통시 산제 간의 총도 자주 셈들 된 산제도 와서 좀전 대별 때는 대실다게 토마는 인지 더버지 콩게 대샤데 니절 나요 대시다 대삼머리 대소서 가서 질산지기 지주 라파르트 택받침부 냠렌 안캔서 투라 맨나 메타 메버지 가서 냠레 가레 있잖아 자주 쌈다 만달 메토네 잠도 셈지 랍지 되네 저조게 냠레 와와다 말은 가레 그 값에 있나야 되네 니 딱봐 쉬고 요래 년중 조시지 심주 꿀세 참년지 심주 렌지 렌 내가 사별 땀네 사별대야 잡을 잡을 렌지 거래 렌 맨날 사별 제 말에 배텐션은 아주 냠도 쳐버지 줄 때고는 맨날 메타 메버다 참년지래 대소자 년중 조시지 심주 꿀 참년지 심주 렌네 때는 다 냠래 저거래 다 냠래 저래 다 냠래 가래 제나요 돈이 닝지 닝보진 장주 들어간 가시라고 가사 소아래 니슈바래라 다티 셈레샤네 당아저 신의 거야 라통 거야 제림 거야 조림 거야 다티서 냠레 거야 냠레 거야 다 냠레 온도이난다 무신이난다 오몰롬이난다 냠레 가리 제나야 손다고 닝다고 따와들 따와텔라 다 산제베게 따베 좀타도 손 돌드나 안에 전도 웃음 신나라 누구요 대나라다 배 간진 좀 쯧쯧베게 저쪽 그냥래 지금 대가가 대신단 될지요 대선사 웃음 기 따와라인지 메신 내신 정보지 내는 나타 매버지 웃음 기 따와라 양내 텔은 내세지 유베 토네 라곤 나다 땡에지기 냠레치나 따네 객도 걸수 얻은 로고 말이 되네 가르쳐 냠도 또 채버르지 제생와 라다라 소 당원에 다네 냠도 채버르지요 이렇게 언더버지 따와르도 따와 넘버 타버지다 쥐바 넘버 타버지고래 쥐바 넘버 타버 처음 내봐 펜데 중해 주고래 롱아 예수님 거니 메게 쥐방와 담마세 개와 쥐 냠솔랑 대 마체 베게다 대신 냠솔랑 겐텔라 짐바 땅 수tum송 서바 검 준두 짬 냠버 샤고래 디 틱마티 탑치차 다 짐바 생텔라 되네 반조 론조게 짐바체게 짐바체한테 가르쳐 보래 매볼라 따때 여보고 짐바 땅 거래 편도 쳐 거래 대양 가신 구시 제바한테 제바 그바한테 제베 거네 반조르면나 반조때 내 나산도는 내 나산을 편비게 되네 멘타 림돌라서 받지 안에 제 락파르츠지 내게 나네 칠라 냐와라서 봐 셰야 saving lives 야 라서 봐 따뜻 갈치 무시라 제도 빼면서 가지 대나네 다 상승기지 짐바 잡지 짐바 민직 잡지 짐바 다 짐바 탐신 나는 초도 초바테 햄바 탐신은 초도 초바테 담비 초코나인 말에 대양 아주도 혹시 제바잖아 하고 그래 제바 맞잖아 하고 말 담비 초에서 가르쳐 그래 나랑 주 대사 냠래 야고 채토케 이나 개착하래 맞다 템마다 아주 좋아 미 기타 남주 된다 제 로스 주세 론주 담 년다 세자 연대 망보증 좀 접대면 여봐 이나야 대 출디요 메덴발라 덴버지 메타발라 딱버지 메사발라 짱버지 다 메발라 딱든 진데 다트 측득 때 캔사요리 이나야 천어서 다 산지출 장바처럼 저럽더니 대퇴 코트가를 마들래 당부밖에 측득 때 캔사버지요리 람로 람더 시비 코로와 참 소리 람로 람더 시비 코와 참 다 가르도 야고 오지 공부하셔야 코와 참비 참술 때 단대 샤반나시 록비군도 마리바 마시바 몽네 세자는 몽네 나한테 말해 tello todos compassionados.
The great Bodhisattva Shantideva taught, there is no evil like anger. There is no virtue like love. There is no hardship like patience. And these are very profound statements, very beneficial statements. We should keep them in mind. We should think that the best way to train ourselves is to be patient when we encounter difficult circumstances, and that there is no virtue like love. So we should train in and cultivate love and compassion and bodhicitta. We should think there is no evil as great as anger, and we should avoid anger at all costs. So it's very important for us to keep these kind of instructions in our mind. Also, in the Madhyamaka Avatara, the great master Chandrakirti, he taught some words that are actually considered so important in Tibet. We consider the teachings of Chandrakirti to be very precious, very important, in particular when it comes to the conduct. We say the Madhyamaka Avatara, his teaching, the Madhyamaka Avatara is so important. And when it comes to the view, then the Mula Madhyamaka Karikas, this text by Nagarjuna, is so important. So these are both very, very important texts. Please pay attention to them, learn about them. And those of you who are studying at Ranjung Yeshe Institute, these days the Madhyamaka Avatara, Chandrakirti's text is being taught. And so there it is mentioned in the very beginning, in the praise, and at the homage at the very beginning, Chandrakirti says, the Buddhas are born from bodhicitta, from bodhisattvas and from bodhicitta, and therefore I will begin by praising compassion. So he starts actually by praising compassion as the source of awakening, the source of Buddhas, the cause of Buddhas. This is very profound, this statement. It's extremely profound. And that's why all Buddhists, but in particular Buddhists who are training in the Mahayana vehicle, the great vehicle, we really emphasize the importance of compassion, how essential it is. So any kind of practice we're doing, we have to have compassion there as part of our practice. So whether we're taking refuge, whether we're generating bodhicitta, whether we're generating the deity, training in deity yoga, whether we're doing the generation stage, the perfection stage, whether we're making dedications and aspirations at the end of the practice, all the time, no matter what we're doing, it's so important that our practice is embraced by compassion. We have to have compassion there at all points in our practice. And this is something that I often say, but I'll mention it again here. We should inspire ourselves with a sense of renunciation and weariness with samsara, and moisten our minds with love and compassion. So just like if you want to plant a seed, you have to moisten the earth so that the seed can take root and can grow there. It can't grow in dry earth. So just like that, if we want experience and realization to the seeds of experience and realization to be sown in our mind, if we want those to grow, we have to have compassion. The moisture of compassion is essential. We have to. And so you should inspire yourself with renunciation, a sense of weariness with samsara, and moisten your mind with love and compassion. And then, with that, put the teachings directly into practice. And as I mentioned the other day, also yesterday, if we have emptiness with a core of compassion, the attainment of liberation is easy. It's not difficult to attain that. So whatever kind of practice we're doing, whether we're practicing shamatha or vipassana, the generation stage, the perfection stage, any kind of meditation that we're engaged in, whether it's and those are all the main part of practice, right? Or if we're doing the preliminary part of practice, or the main part of practice, or the conclusion part, the dedications and the aspirations, it doesn't matter. No matter what we're doing, the real essence, the life force, the heart of our practice is the view. And how then can we come to understand or to realize the view genuinely, correctly? Well, if we're training in the Mahayana, it's important to have some kind of certainty, to gain some kind of certainty in the view of Madhyamaka, the middle way, or mind only. Having some kind of certainty in that view forms the basis for being able to practice deity yoga, to practice the recitation of mantra, and to train in samadhi meditation. And if we have that kind of certainty in the view, then when we do those practices of deity yoga, mantra recitation, and meditation, samadhi, we are not going to fall into mistakes. We're not going to go astray in our practice. And also, if we want to gain real, unique, special experience and realization through our practice, again, we must rely upon the view. Without the view, it's not possible. We have to rely upon the perfectly pure view, and we also need to have pure conduct. And then, if we have, what is that kind of pure conduct that we need to have? It's the conduct which refrains from harming anyone and benefits others. So again, it's of course essential to avoid harming others, but on top of that, we should benefit them. That is to say, we should avoid the 10 non-virtues, but on top of that, engage in the 10 virtuous actions. And then additionally, we should practice generosity, discipline, patience, diligence, and meditation. These are all aspects of method. And these practices are so important for us to engage in. When it comes to practicing generosity, we should give material things. We should give, if there are people who lack resources, money and resources, well, those who have those kind of resources, those who have money, they should give. You should give to poor people if you have the resources to do that. If someone is sick and you have the resources to help them, you should give medicine, or you should give service to help them, those people who are sick and who are in that way in need. And if there are beings whose life is at risk, we should give them the protection of saving their lives, if we can, right? The practice of saving lives. So these are types of generosity, actually. Each of these are types of generosity. We should practice like this. There's the generosity that we call material generosity, the generosity of giving material goods. And then there's also the generosity of protection from fear, protecting those who are in a fearful situation. The best kind of generosity, though, is to give the Dharma. And this is something that we don't, if we don't really investigate carefully, that might not make sense to us. But if we really examine and investigate, then we will know, we'll understand that in fact, the most beneficial thing that there is, in just period, the most beneficial thing that there is the Dharma. And again, if we practice the Dharma well, then this is something that we can come to understand generally. Otherwise, if we're not a real practitioner, people who are not practitioners, just ordinary people, tend to get so caught up in and deluded by getting fixated upon wealth and name and fame and gain and wanting to have all of those kind of positions and have a certain status. People get so carried away by those things and are so confused. Ordinary people are so confused. We think that things are real when they're not real. We believe that things are going to last when they're in fact impermanent. We hold on to things as being clean that are in fact unclean and impure. And we believe that there's a self. Hold on to an idea of there being a self when there isn't. And so this is the way in which people are confused and deluded. And this maybe sounds a little bit strange if you haven't studied and if you haven't learned about that. But if you learn more about the Dharma, it really begins to make sense that this kind of confused, deluded perspective is how most people live and experience things. Again, for a beginning practitioner, maybe it's difficult to understand. But we say that by following the wrong path, by getting on the mistaken way, the mistaken path, we wander in samsara. So again, this is something that maybe is difficult to understand without having really learned more about the Dharma, but this is a statement that we make. Taking the wrong path or following the mistaken way, we continue to just wander again and again in samsara.
람로 람도르 시베 코로나 참세 근데 심시 출발 나와 다 출저리 출발생 페이지 더 시나 밀람 나시래 밀람 그 갑술라 출매 상고요 제라와 칸실라서 라다 셴다 니마다 다와 Nyima nawa chima chishmela kwashi video tate wamai samdeyor. Petition the tate nawa to the mai wamai tapai chamai samdeyor. Tell children nawa asge. That chulbati children nawate. Kanchine chulbara Marikne, Marik in the Trubare, so the Sanje Be Sugayor, Hindu get in the Shiro. Hindu Chulunala, Sancha, the Sancha said the Shiraya, Samori, or Tizuga to the Slayer, Sipizemo Patum, Dogoyer, Sitsipadia Dogoyer. Tenepa is Kachar Mato, Dogoyer. And Jimbatangoya, Sutum Sugoya, Soba Gomgoya. Shene the large tongue, Tandangajo, Tisero, Shamata, Bepas, and the hint chulula ever. Ta Paranja, Parimetas, and this the Kachar, the name Kachar. Tine Jerim that Jeremayor, Sorem and Davayor, Lagoya, not there ever. Ever. Shadan Dabu, Dava Maboyor, the Labar Sanga Dorji, Tepeke, Yamlek capsule, Hindu La, Mambo, Yamsalangayor. Yamlechayor. Such a watch you send over the Oma Deva said, as to Sumen and the top of the Mahadeva Za, Oma Deva sings you are, or last of you. That gets a door, do you know? Sanga Dorji Tebeki, Yamlek Zavate Carre, said Wang Long Tea, Mengala Togores. That one long tea, Mengat. 이렇게 냠래 술신데 잡아라 가르쳐 버려. 따와지 거래. 따와 간대줄 거잖아. 람노 음메 따와지. 약고지. 음메 따와지 삽타는 람산 고아 약고지 래 깔래 가봐요. 그 맞추나 가르쳐 버려. 삼삼배 따와. 삼삼바. 삼삼배기 좀 타들는 게시 도나 대인들이요. 대패 삼모래. 대 할래를 삼모. Tene chene ane jazo ke nyamle di chekora mato. Te menda te namba sanji pe, la te namba sanji pe la resene mato. Tene la goya ta nga dawa ta tengi ze nyamle chesul te namba sanji pe ngoy chaga yo mara. Ta namba sanji pe nyamle ngoy chaga la ka ne chik tsam dewe shene dega mara te dewe shene kore. Nga ganga ke. 다 단단하지는 상가도르지 특히 최 달사때 또 치실 때다 배주래도 배주 텐션데 내와를 요래 내와를 고바죠 버처짜리야 근데 자발라 자주 주주 진수야 말해 배샹도 도르지 인기 진거 냠슬랑게 요 말해 도르지 인기 진거 오마테 왕준 롱준 매네 야와 탐지 선반에 양상쇼니 야와 탐지 선반께 저 좀 버쳐라 간나는데 좀 좀 버치 뒤도 구수한 장인 정도도 요 말한테 산 자판을 폈네 너지 인기 되네 왕때 나가리 바저다르도 만달라시도 네 네와르게 단단데 가서 사강 마치 돈들 dor지 시야도 찍도 찍거지도 어때 dor지 인기 찍거래도 그래도 딱 알아서 관계게 되네 상하 규천 냠는 지도 칸 가르래라고 벌써 마하슈네다 냐나 베저 소바 엄자 간서 소바 와슈드 서와다르마 소바 와슈드 항 살라고요. 딱 특걸로 약보 양어라. 대 장거요 말. 대바 당산. 근데 저는 되요. 근데 때문에 양바셔 거리 양바. 양바 지쳐버 제발라 다 넘어본 거예요. 샤달라테는 그런 흉층 장바 야야 로고 거게 로고 팀을라테네 나도 르바 신찰 초가 잔을 롤 심찰 강가 참네 흉층 장바 로고 탐바 무트 쇼 알랑체 공 친예체 되네 자와 롤심 저바 망보 로 되네 캠볼로 배웠단 장 되네 저바 되는 제 아니 저바 제가 되네 배바 쳐버쳐 내가 대표 강진 지정을 다 단다 빨 날랜다다 제 백가말레실라데 니 우덴포르 그 마하비라 라 소발라 나르키 추디치버 촐라데네 상주기 추 동아 양술 가려요 봐 대셔도 배 강정 정라 장바래 근데 델라테네 춘신 요렇게데 별 매망래 땡아라서 오늘 별 매망설 쯧체베 히말레게 딱 사서 망볼라 동아 소주기 추데 다리어 곰바 치타 망보 라간 치타 망보요 자와 안에 쳐봐 멈춰 먹어요. 공부야 매만게 잡아리. 구수 투대야 매만게 잡아리. 근데 다 쳐치게는 초봐야 매만게 표버리. 뭐마 에릭 뱀막고사 별 치버 값을라 때네 그 3회 치벌라 가부 되는 그 3대배 일라도 3대배 값을라 때 메트스 요나 카시 같은 그 라 타모자 카시게 몰람자 카시게 되는 콜로 된 잠바다 추라도 우도 근데 때도 없어. 그 공가 당할 때 마터치 나 라마메 감메 잡아메 슬라비 말을 진짜 깨서 말을 치는 최치기도 치자메기 최치에서 때 마세야 버리 제시 이라와 해서는 그 콜로 쳐봐만 뭐 표송 아직 배배 메텔 때는 최를 최대 쳐보시라도 미리라 인제라 소바다 자와 이메일라 짠에 딱이면도 된대 된대 같은 최대 첨부시도 무슨 에릭 미글 미샤 코르소 배 대신도 안에요 단단 안에지요 다 안에 공미도 단단 남선 탱이면도 안에 지자래 지자 여러 번 안에져요 콤펠도 있어 콤펠 라발레셈 그 안에로 안에 야버죠래 근데 세다 둘러심 걸어샷 근데 지금 근데 맞지 나 라면에 가야 매슬라 말을 저는 진짜 매지긴 근데 나셔를 대봤다 하나씩 쳐도 때 맛에 깔바상 버려 근데 저는 자갈 배유 라소바 라마 뭐뭐 제요래 알로 뭐뭐 터요래 질럽쟁이 미리 맞을 질러 나라나서 근데 라부도세 대코 미치 땅도 미치 따나가라 아이 벽이 밑에게 최대 대신다 만들어가지고다 대바자 말에면도 당당 빼도 맞을라 당당 치기도 세 근데 치기도 세 대소서 다 다긴 건지 쇼바나시 최 양타바지 더버지 잡발라 당부 따와 양타버지 같이 쉬어야 돼 따와 양타버지 냠솔랑 잡발라 탁메 셰버지 잡발라 초사 디비전 거로 초사 디비전 셰발라 맨 메타 메바 당부 거로 베베카요 라요스기래 람산 카투텔 메게 어쩌트 빵 개와쩌트 카운트투 냠솔랑 그 산지께 진주 강강 냠솔라야를 뭐데 저와 안에 장방 냠솔라야 말에 그 투려고 샤브 거데 제단다 부디과메 제단들은 잼 투나시 잼 잠바다 개와메 잠인지 자주 센다 아주 맨지나는 초초 당와 탐신나는 초초 원들을 대 당돌랑 샤바다 같은메스는 제단 제게 자샤 그 값이 있나라 담배 조성 검수 제가 값이 있나요 샤바다 야보지 검 샤바다 같은메스 같은데서 되래 다 노트를 주도는 아주 산지백이 진주 그쵸 냠소 나왔었도 대신인분 적용용라 찹서서 데네 대화식사 아주 깔래셔라 자고 말해 응 깔래 까투만버 자고 말해 또 생부터는 냠소라 생부터 년중 조시 야부지 거를 잠인지 야시 야부지 거를 근데 따와랑 예시 야부지 좀 거를 대가나다 상가 도시 대비 냠내체는 다 먹고 당당생 가르쳐 버렸다 대깔 가봐요 저 대바창에 대깔라 버 대나라 당당생 대깔 가버 다 대슈바이 좀 생각해서 알아서 심지 semyo chama masibe nga zu chöba ki da ngoma de nga ja thawara nga zu chöba nga zu sa ji chöla de jang de chosom gom so de nga ja chen de nga ja to ja nga ja to ja te nga ja men de to cha so men de to sun ju so de thawdo she chosom gom so ya bo yo she dan ba ya bo so de la thawdo she chosom ku sha ro yo de la to ba 제 검념래 야고체 텔라이 되네 간세 타도라는 타도 매 독준 줄어 그래 대소장 아주 최백에 야야 섬로서 섬로 땅에다 나저다 타도 얘기 원래 사다 람기 야 double chapala partu juke du de jiri nyoma ba jitang la bordo ngaja da chato de la sapsop nang gore tetang tagi shuba nashi soba wa shuddha sarva dharma soba wa shuddha hang se ti tonda yapo ji shena tene la gomne yakbore nga dana yakbore shen so ti ke ko meba la mambo gom tina la cho mambo gomudwa 사버도 우르서 라샤다 유크레ン라 탁볼 빼가그래 건도 대선사 대 진짜 삽잡시 거다 삽삽 초생이 닝제 닝제타 촌이 저 남바 신송하러 닝제 따와를 두고요 또니 이 송죽세라 또니 이 송죽 다기는 샤바는 자주 로반 가실라오 세티치 섬샤 대간로 소바와 슈드 사르와다르마 소바와 슈드 항 사티 토다야 야보시 야 신선 내 라고 라 가지고 겁내 야버래 아니 시와 먹고 잡어 겁는데 잡어되는 잡어나네 잡어되는 신도 잡어된데 겁는데 되네 포주 겁는데 그래 뭐주 겁는데 그래 많이 겁는데 그래 개려말 대 매발라 라마보 겁배셔라 팬바다 너바테 간데 얘는 대수를 다 대수 텐트 툴로 샤로나 되네 란종이 인스티튜트로 다 럽중 체계 저그 전화서 약부 제게도 대소자 단다 시험하나 오만 주바데 약부 장로나 되네 대가라 뭐야 that little bit too long talk yeah oh Professor Catherine, can you repeat a little bit faster? James. But the words are, what I say is really important. It's important for me, so maybe important for you guys also. Sometimes whatever words come from my mouth, I feel, I feel like that. Because not me, I'm repeating. For words of Buddha, Bodhisattva, great masters' words, I'm repeating. So I feel myself, happy. But in English, the individual dignity is the thing I should tell you about dignity is the Chimachi. Sanjay Simjanane, Sanjini, Angel over Timetic, Timates or Sanji, Sanjay Simjan Tanji. Simply Silla Chuy Tishini Yore. Nyamsolana Sanjigre, so that's semla chunyi tishin yisen kare chenzi nyere chapa sen kare bambu busin la kono kanda ha koto ba kun nebash dwa chure sere ha kodo bambu busin la milata labjom mabu chesharwa shante she jawa dwa I love you, you love me, I love you more than you love the lying, that's lying, but saying like that anyway but that here point is not saying just love. 닝지 첨보 생식이와 다테 가르레데 삼르다오라. 나라라 신도 닝 예베기. 펜바마보 제겐지 당 나라라 녀바마보 제겐지 여바이네. 티니가 나라랑 그거는 닝지 찍바 제토바이네. 다테 닝지 첨보르죠. 고데보잖아. 때마다 닝지 첨보 말해. 세자 탐지를 마먹나? 딱 샤랍 첨보래. 대바장 아주 샤랍 첨보 말해. 샤랍 초도 롱데 리스체 담 좀래 샤랍 첨보 때는 세자 콩도 주스 샤랍 첨보 깨질라 샤랍 첨보 양바 천전아 샤랍 첨보 깨질라 추고 콩도 추라 추 탐지 콩도 추로 대 가르치오르 주니 내루도 셴나 콘들 람숨데 비춰 담지 따로 야 good to follow that path. I'm more excited because teaching time is finishing, so I'm more excited. But now what to do? Next time. Okay. Linda.
if we follow a mistaken path, or if we stray from the path, then we continue to wander in samsara. And so sentient beings experience delusion. Our experience is one of delusion. What does that mean? It means that actually we experience things, it's just like a dream experience, right? When you're dreaming, you don't know you're dreaming. You think everything's real out there. So it's just like that, right? In the dream, you see buildings and mountains and, houses. You think I'm there and there's somebody else there. And all of those kind of experiences we have of ourselves and others and things in the dream, it appears to us in the same way that it does in our ordinary daily experiences. And we think that it's real and we think that it's lasting. But actually, but it's not, because we're just dreaming. But our ordinary daily experience is also like that. We think that things are real. We think they're going to last. We think that they're truly existent, but in fact, they're not. We're deluded. That delusion is our ignorance. And this kind of teaching about ignorance and delusion, actually, we find not just in the Buddhist teachings, but also in other teachings as well, like in the teachings in the Hindu tradition, thinking about the samsaric existence and delusion within the samsaric existence. This is a teaching that's shared. The teachings on generosity and discipline and patience and diligence and even meditation, some kinds of shamatha practice, meditation and vipassana practice. This is something that we find also in non-Buddhist Hindu traditions. The difference comes when we get to wisdom and the perfection of wisdom. This is something that's unique to the Buddhist teaching. But even the generation stage, deity yoga, and some aspects of the perfection stage, doing meditation on the deity, the recitation of mantra, it's quite similar that you find in non-Buddhist traditions. And in particular, when it comes to Vajrayana practice, we see a lot of things that seem quite similar. Like, for example, even some deities, right? Like Maheshvara and Uma. Right? We in the protector practices, we say we say like Om Mahadeva and Om Uma Deva Shing and so on. We make these statements. We chant actually about the Om Mahadeva Za Uma Deva Shing and so on. We actually chant about the protector deities the same, Mahadev and Uma. But what's different in the Buddhist tradition is that no matter what kind of context we're in the context of empowerment, in the context of reading transmission, in the context of instructions, the pith instructions, the essential key point in all of those contexts, in all of our practice, is the view. And that's something that's essential. That's something that's unique in the Buddhist context. And here then, the view of Madhyamaka is very important, the middle way view. Very important. It's very profound. It's very hard to realize, to understand really fully. And for that reason, then, if that's too difficult, if that's too much, then we could learn the view of mind only. This is also extremely profound. And having a certainty in the view of mind only is an extremely beneficial basis for practicing. If on this basis of having some kind of confidence in the view of Madhyamaka or mind only, then we practice the generation stage and the perfection stage, then it's good. Then you're okay. But if you're doing deity yoga and the recitation of mantra and remaining in samadhi doing meditation practice without that view, then it's not really Buddhist practice anymore. You can say a bunch of words if you want, but if you just say the words and you miss out on the meaning, then it's not really Buddhist practice. So it's essential that we have this view, the correct view, that we come to have certainty in the correct view, and then within the framework of that correct view that we train in the practice. And in the Buddhist teachings in general, we can say, and in particular, the Vajrayana teachings spread to Tibet. They also are present in Nepal among the Newar community, right? The Vajracharyas practice the Vajrayana tradition. And also in Japan, the Kriya and Charya Tantra teachings went to Japan. The practice of the Vajradhatu Mandala, for example, is practiced in Japan. And in fact, at a certain point in the past, it seems that the lineage of the empowerment of that mandala had been lost in Japan, and there was a request that was passed on to pass that to some Tibetan teachers, actually, to pass the reinstate the lineage of empowerment of that practice. And in the Newar mandala, in the Newar temples, we can see the mandala, right? The Vajradhatu mandala is actually drawn. In some places, we can see them in the Newar temples. So in general, we can say that Vajrayana practice is present in these different places in the world. And when we practice the Vajrayana, we say certain mantras like Om Svabhavashuddha Sarvadharma Svabhavashuddho, right? We say this mantra. But it's not enough just to say that. We have to understand what it means. So if you understand what that means in the new practice, the generation stage and the perfection stage, that's wonderful. But without understanding really what it means to practice, you're missing out on something very important there. And so how do you learn? Well, you go to Shedra. You can study in the traditional ways. The monks and nuns study in the monastic college. They study the philosophical treatises for 9 years, the major philosophical scriptures. But before that, they study spelling and grammar and basic language. They memorize the rituals, the practices, the pujas, and then go on to study for 9 years to study philosophical treatises. And also, when studying in the Shedra, they memorize the root texts, and they read lots and lots of commentaries, many different commentaries, and they put them into practice. They ask questions. They receive teachings from Khenpos and the Lupuns. They have question and answer with the teachers in this way, and also debate. So there's a huge amount of practice that goes into, and a huge amount of study that goes into gaining that kind of confidence and certainty in the philosophical vehicles. And this all comes from a tradition that stems from India. The great monasteries like Nalanda and Vikramashila and Udantapuri and so on. The tradition of study from these great institutions is what was passed on to Tibet. And this is something that has been continued by the Tibetan people, Tibetan population at large, and the Himalayan population at large had so much faith in and brought so much support to the Buddhist teachings once the Buddhist teachings arrived there. So there are thousands of monasteries, tens of thousands of monasteries and temples, hundreds of thousands of monks and nuns. And it's not just like the monks and the nuns and the lamas were the ones that built these temples. No, the ordinary people built temples. The ordinary people built representations of awakened body, speech, and mind. They had such tremendous faith in the Dharma and put so much effort into supporting and sustaining the Buddha Dharma in Tibet, in the Himalayan region. One time, some time ago, Eric Pema Kunsung went to Tibet, and he was at Samye Chimpu. He was doing retreat there. And he told me about this afterwards. He said that Tibetan people would come to him, and they would join their palms together, and some of them would say prayers, and some of them brought him food. They brought him tsampa. They tried to give him money. And he said, no, I'm not a lama, I'm not a monk, I'm just an ordinary person, just doing some practice here. And they said, no, not at all, you don't get it. You are a foreigner, and you are practicing the Dharma. That is something so amazing, so valuable, so precious. And so they insisted upon giving him food and giving him some money and so on. They insisted upon giving these things to him. And when he told me about it, he was so overwhelmed at the inspiration of Buddhist people. He said, wow, Tibetans really have a lot of trust in the Dharma. They're so strongly connected to the Buddha Dharma. I was just amazed. I'm a Westerner. I'm not a monk. I'm not a lama. I'm just a Western person. I'm just doing some practice. And when he was telling me that story, he had tears in his eyes. He was so so impressed by those people. And another time, another Westerner, a nun, her name is not coming to mind right now. She was also in Tibet. Annie Jimpa. Now her name came to mind. Annie Jimpa. She, when she was in Tibet, she said that the Tibetans would come up to her, and they would take her hand. They would take her robes and put them on top of their head. And she said, come on, I'm not anyone special. I'm just, I'm not a lama. Don't do that. And they said, no, you're a Dharma practitioner. You've become a nun. You, in the West and in India and all of these places, have met a lot of teachers. You're so fortunate. You're practicing the Dharma. You have such incredible fortune. You have blessings. We can receive blessings. We want to receive blessings from you because you have had this great fortune. Please give us these blessings. And she was just crying, tears running down her face as she told me about this encounters and experiences that she had as a nun, a Western nun in Tibet. She said, wow, it's the Tibetan people. It's not just that they have faith. They have that kind of pure perception. That kind of pure perception that someone like me, they could feel that they could receive blessings. So really, the Tibetan people do have this incredible devotion and trust in the Buddha Dharma. But again, coming back to how to train in the Dharma genuinely, if we really want to practice the Dharma authentically, correctly, we have to have the correct view. And to gain the correct view, we need to gather the accumulations and purify our obscurations. We have to avoid the 10 non-virtues. We have to engage in virtue. We have to train in virtue. And then we need to put the Dharma directly into practice, really genuinely. It's essential that we do that. We should remember, we should keep in mind the statement that we heard from Shantideva, that there is no evil like anger, and bring that to mind. Think about it when you get angry and think, okay, I have to avoid anger, right? Because there is nothing more evil than, there's no evil deed greater than anger. There is no virtue like love, no virtue like love. And so think about that, bring that to mind and think to yourself, I have to train and I have to cultivate love and compassion and bodhicitta in an unbiased way. And think about the fact that there is no hardship, no austerity like training in patience. Think about that, remember that, and remember that even in your worldly life, and especially when it comes to training and practicing, studying, reflecting, and meditating on the Dharma, that it's important to be patient, that this is the most important way to train in austerities. And it's taught also in the Buddha Dharma that Buddha nature is present in all sentient beings. And that means that it's not that we have to do so many outwardly difficult things, right? We don't have to undergo a huge amount of hardship to train in the Dharma. We don't have to engage in tremendous austerities. We practice with our mind. That is how we practice the Dharma, training the mind. So we have to have good renunciation and a sense of real weariness with samsara. We have to have love and compassion and bodhicitta, right? We need to have good compassion, bodhicitta, and love. And we need to gain confidence in the view. And having that, then we can train in the path of Vajrayana practice, receive the pith instructions, right? And in order to practice Vajrayana, again, it's really important that we have faith and pure perception. We have to have pure perception. And that's not so easy, actually. That's a little bit more difficult. Faith is a little bit difficult, and pure perception is, in particular, pretty difficult. Because, it's just something that doesn't necessarily come easily to us. But we need to cultivate those. And here's something else to keep in mind. Everybody, no matter whether they're a Dharma practitioner or not, but especially Dharma practitioners, we have to be careful about two negative emotions in particular. And those are pride and jealousy. Especially Dharma practitioners, we have to be careful about that. Pride is a real problem for us. If we study the Dharma and then become proud about our Dharma learning or our Dharma practice, we've turned medicine into poison. That's a real problem. So it's important that we're very careful not to become proud about our Dharma learning or practice. Jealousy also is something we have to be very careful about as practitioners. If we see other people studying and contemplating and meditating, and we become jealous about their study and their meditation, their practice, or in particular, if we become jealous about somebody else's meditation, that you're turning the medicine of the Dharma into poison. Don't do that. It really is an obstacle. So we, as Dharma practitioners, should always remember pride and jealousy are an obstacle to training in Dharma practice. They're an obstacle to generating the qualities of the grounds and paths that lead to liberation. I have to be careful about this. We have to remind ourselves of this again, again, and again. And then again, when we want to practice, it's important to know the meaning of this mantra. Om Svabhavashuddha Sarvadharma Svabhavashuddhoham. We have to know that, understand what we're saying, and then practice deity yoga, and then recite mantras. Then it's good. Without doing that, if you don't understand that, and then you want to do deity yoga, especially you want to practice a wrathful deity, not a very good idea without having an understanding of that. Especially Russians and Ukrainians really like to practice wrathful deities. And so it's, be careful. You have to be careful. Make sure that you are starting with a good understanding of that kind of practice. When we talk about wrathful deities, that wrath is an expression of compassion. That's what a wrathful deity is. It's an expression of compassion. And so we must have the view. We must have the view. Emptiness and compassion. You remember? I said the view is the unity of emptiness and compassion. We have to start with that. And within that, if we have that view, then, as I said before, right? If you have emptiness with a core of compassion, if you have that view, then liberation is not difficult to obtain. So we have to understand this mantra, Om Svabhavashuddha Sarvadharma Svabhavashuddhoham. If we understand that, if we really know what it means, then you're welcome to do deity yoga. Then fine, you can practice peaceful deities, you can practice wrathful deities, you could practice very wrathful deities, male deities, no problem, female deities, no problem, neuter deities, no problem, everything's fine, no problem at all. Any kind of deity practice is fine as long as you start with that fundamental understanding of the view. Then you're fine. Then it's not a problem. But without that, if you think that you're going to practice some kind of wrathful deity without that fundamental understanding, there's some doubt about whether it will be helpful or harmful. There's some doubt there. So it's very important to be careful. Now, those of you who are studying in Rangjung Yeshe Institute, I think many of you are studying in Rangjung Yeshe. So please continue with your studies and study well. And in particular, those of you who are studying the Umala Jukpa, Madhyamaka Avatara, it's really important text. So please study this and learn this carefully and train in what you learn there. It's also taught, one last thing to share, is that it's taught that all sentient beings are Buddhas, but they are obscured by the temporary stains. And when those stains are cleared away, their Buddhahood becomes manifest. All sentient beings have Buddha nature. We have this Buddha nature present within us. And this is something that we can come to know, we can have certainty about that, because everybody has these two qualities of love and the ability to love and the ability to know. We can all do that. Every sentient being, even a tiny little bug, right? We all have this capacity to know, this quality of knowing and this quality of love that's present within us, right? Love, like we say, oh, I love you even more than you love me. It's probably a lie, but it's a great lie. And anyway, the best of lies, but nonetheless, love. We're not talking about that kind of love, that kind of one unidirectional love. We're talking here about real love, great compassion, which is totally unbiased. So love that's completely unbiased. And wisdom here can develop into real wisdom, which is also completely unbiased in the sense that it is wisdom that knows everything that there is to know, this kind of great wisdom. So this great wisdom knows all that there is to know. And this is a statement about wisdom from the Manjushri Namasangiti. It says, in the single moment of great wisdom, all phenomena, all dharmas are understood. That means everything there is to know about samsara, nirvana, and the path. All of that is perfectly understood in a single moment of great wisdom. You should pay attention to that.
Love will make their life is rich and union and rich and happy. But we need to know what means love. Love is not just based on attraction and cling each other, holding. And not only love shouldn't based on need, not based on attraction, not based on need. Yeah, love need to be really need to based on care each other from bottom of heart. That kind of love will last ever. If love is based on attraction, then getting old, one side or both side, then less love. They become very old, then both no more love. Then become midlife crisis. Then maybe you will buy a big CC motorbike or sport car or helicopter, or other things. You know what that means. So that is, we need to know love need based on care and respect. That kind of love is pure. If love is based in need and based on attraction, less attraction or little damage, then love damage. So this is one important thing. And today, sorry, time is really what to say. So in my mind now in the world, so many people are searching spiritual. English do like this, spiritual. French will do, or English or French. American spiritual. What is spiritual? Cozy. Hold each other hand, kiss, naha, he, ha. It's okay. That's okay. And here one need to click. I need to make clear. Now we talk of if we want to practice genuinely Buddha Dharma, Mahayana, especially Vajrayana, Mahayana Vajrayana. Two things important. Number one important, I already mentioned, Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Swabhava Shuddha Hang. That meaning you need to know clearly. Or Om Gate Para Sangate Bodhi Soha. This need to know. And without that, we shouldn't play much. Deity, mantra. And that will be not really a Buddhist way of practice. So now we're talking faith. All religion has based on faith. In Buddhism, what is the faith? The faith is two types of faith. One is saying, example, in Tibet, many old lady, old men, many of them, they cannot not read in Tibetan, but they chant, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Abheta Guru Padma Siddhi Hum, Om Mani Mani Maha Mani Shakti Mani Saha. How much they know those mantras meaning, roughly. But they have one pointedly faith. They have faith or belief, two things. Ningje japsuchu. Ningje simje tamsi. Ningje simje ludongare yore. Simje tamsi pamare. Ningje koncho somla yonde samji mechabare. Koncho somke simje tarbata tamsi chambalan dendro. Then denso kori shada hakoma. Denso chog dengi yorwa. That's also the Buddha. Okay, we're sick. You want to admit or not? Up to you. If you not want to admit, welcome. If you want to admit, welcome. which is right in your hand. We are sick. What kind of sick? Not normal sick. This sick is worse than the normal sick. Normal sick will harm a certain month, certain year, or it end life. This sick will continue one after another lives. Chance is now. Why we have good brain, very big head, encoding our body. The head is very big. So we have very good brain, computer, big computer. So we need to use our computer. So there's one word that they're using often, blind faith. So we need to clarify this. What is blind faith? No past life, no future life. Dembare, takpare, duchere, tse ngamame thomaso, tse chima yomare thongamindo, thongama. Go nge ki shepe kari thonga kari yunga te jangba dembare. Shanda demba mare se ta jena de nyanga chobare. Tesum ye sana yabare. She maso sana yabare. Te so jang 잡수치 닌제 시간티라 잡수치 시간 가를 잡수치고 닌제 요현을 잡수치고 셔럽 요현을 잡수치고 닌제 술어요 산젤이요 닌제 꼬르테 가와소를 담쳐 나눠서 닌제 냠솔 랑게 소리 긴도 말 셔럽 통모 많이 베셔럽 Gate para sang gate body soha. Am soba bashuda sarwa dam soba bashuda hang. This is sunya salang. Oh, chanju semba. Papa chu nyam salang. Oh, tel japsi selta gobado. Te mongde remido. Tel mongde lavet ben nor. Mongdes. Te mongmelo. Sheche ji namshala manshena mongde da. 세제지 남샤 마셔는 몽바리 몽니 이체도 대성장 다 드링께 좀 먹으시면 and top of that 오케이 제대 가시게 벽에 던져서 또
So Rinpoche said some in English, but a little bit in Tibetan. I'll just translate that part. When we talk about faith, a lot of Tibetan people, Rinpoche mentioned old ladies, old men, they have faith. Tibetan people have this kind of sense in what do they have, what do they understand if they don't even understand so much about the Dharma? There's two things that they'll say. They'll say, great compassion. They bring compassion to mind. And why do they know about compassion, or why do they feel compassion? They know that it's because sentient beings are suffering, and that because sentient beings are suffering, and all sentient beings have been my mothers and fathers, and therefore I should feel a sense of compassion for them because of their suffering. And then also they'll say, I take refuge. And take refuge in whom? In the three jewels. Why? Because their qualities are inconceivable. Why? Because they bring beings to liberation. Maybe they don't know exactly how they bring beings to liberation, but they have some sense that they do. And so they have this kind of natural trust in compassion, belief in compassion, and in the qualities of the three jewels. Otherwise, many people, ordinary people, they have this idea that, things are real, things are solid, they're really out there, they're really true. There's no past lives. How do I know? Because I don't remember them. There's no future lives. How do I know? I've never seen a future life, and therefore I don't believe in them. Only things that I can directly experience with my five senses, those things are real. Everything besides that is not real. I don't believe that it's real. That's very dangerous to have that perspective. To say, I don't know about those things that I can't see with the five senses. I have some doubts about those things that I can't perceive with the five senses. That's okay. That's good, maybe, actually, to have a little bit of doubt there. But to say categorically, if I can't see it with my own five senses, it doesn't exist, that's dangerous, actually. Much better to say, oh, I take refuge, I have faith. In what do those people who say I take refuge and I believe in compassion, great compassion, what do they take refuge in? Those who have compassion and those who have wisdom. And who has compassion and wisdom? The Buddhas. And what do they teach? The Dharma. And who practices love and compassion and wisdom? The Sangha. And what kind of wisdom? Unique wisdom, special wisdom. Gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha, that kind of wisdom. Om svabhabashuddha sarva dharma svabhabashuddho hung, that kind of wisdom. Who practices that? Great bodhisattvas, noble beings. And so people who say, oh, I take refuge in them, that's not blind faith. That's real, genuine devotion. There's great benefit in that. It would be a mistake to say that's blind faith, to believe in and have trust in genuine wisdom. And so if we lack knowledge about the general presentation of what there is to know, then we're deluded, right? Then we're confused. We lack that kind of knowledge. But it's important, actually. We can talk about those Tibetans who say, I take refuge in those objects of refuge. So I don't want to share too much. I don't want to say too much today, so I'll stop here. But then Rinpoche is going to continue, I think.
Okay. Here, three important law. Our Dharma centers and Dharma house, also online teaching from different campus, and Kempo Topatuku or Waker, he will teach the Uttara Tantra Shastra, and Kempo Tsundu Sampo, he will teach meditation, and Kempo Pema Namjal, he is also one of the expert Omje. So the other Omjes asked him to teach. So he teach about Che. So then I told, just learning tune is not good enough. You need to explain the meaning. So he explained the meaning quite roughly, based on text and Darshan Shojilamba's commentary. But most important, if you want to know Che, then the Che means ego cling. You need to cut. So that means you need to Mari Nizin te Shigora, Mari Nizin Shi Parchabala, take Doksho, Nimeji, Sham, Samatomba Nik, call Coates Mebala, then Chemachi Regio Mari, Chemachi, Jula, Soba Yamle Ganga, Tendel attending a sharp Nimpochi, Chigo, those loving. Take home that sharp Nimpotigre, Tender Sota Tanta Dangeke, Lonchi, te Tadangaranso, Ju. Payment Nimpo Ju to the chick Nipate Jula make it Sawa Tsikashi Matamido. Tishara Sharat Nipati Logi Dogi Tula Sero Shu.
If you want to bring to an end dualistic ignorance, without some understanding of the direct opposite of dualistic ignorance, which is non-dual wisdom, profound emptiness, without some understanding of that, then it's difficult actually to practice genuinely. That's why I said it's really important for people to study the Heart Sutra, so then that's why the Heart Sutra is going to be taught. So I'm just going to give here a few lungs. Reading transmissions. The first is the Lotus Essence Tantra. The second is just some condensed verses of the Uttara Tantra Shastra root text. And then the third is the Heart Sutra.
So now, many of you some of you really seriously, very, very interested. You want to come here and study, but your timing is difficult. You have job, you have family. So now, in the Gompa, the monks are not very learned. Now they become really very learned. They become scholar practitioners. So now the Khenpo Lama Lobeng can teach. Also, every year we have 1 month Mantra practice. And Lama Hopa, he guide that. He explained that roughly. Now, some of the Mantra students, they want to learn more sort of detail. What is the Talvaje, what is the Jorbachu, what is the Chamdro, what is Samche, what is the Lache, and what is Ngowa, what is Malam. They want to learn more precisely, more detail. So now, Khenpo Chuntu Sampo will also teach about those important points. Okay? So, now, I think better to over, otherwise really, even I'm here, maybe one going, two going, then maybe nobody, no, there's no listener. If no listener, that says, Nyanken me na sheke chitan ra se. Then take me to that. Rinpoche chongso. Inaya charasol penta yobe tsiki shayuda. Ngarang ka tokso rawa tsanime. Yalwe kachama. Pakpe long chama. Ngotom chi rikpa chama. Lame menga chama. Tingala ngarang ki nyamyo chama tes chayuda. Catherine, this is important translation.
It's said that if there's no listeners, then the speaker is speaking, then it's just like a dog barking. So I've been talking a long time now, so I better stop before I run out of listeners. But what I've shared with you here, this is not anything that I made up myself at all. I have shared with you the genuine authentic words of the Buddha, it's based on the genuine, authentic scriptures, the genuine, authentic pith instructions from my teachers, and I put a few of my own genuine instructions in there too.
I put little masala, my own experience, masala. Food need a grease. Okay, now, okay. Actually, this talk is for Himalayan, and past most of our Himalayan. Now this year, certainly from Europe, America, also from Chinese speakers, many of joined. They did also Ngondro, also the 4-month teaching of Tibetan language. Also they listened the teachings from Khenpo Jansen, Tamshu Ishin Norbu, Tharpa Rinpoche Jen, yeah, and till now. So I want to tell whoever got teaching, please listen again at least 2-3 times. This is my own experience. One time not enough. Dharma text is one time not enough. If you listen more and more, if you read it more and more, there's coming more and more layers, more clearly. So read more, listen more. Whoever got teaching, you listen again. And now these topics are so serious, so profound, so important. Please, you don't need to come here, you don't need to spend money, you just make a time, it benefit to you, and future you can benefit to other. Please, I beg you, study more. If you study, then what happens? Then 닝제 생한테 자와 가르치기에 봐. 닝제를 연장 가르쳐 때 저는 야보하고 그래. 때 돈이 따와 생한테 가르쳐 봐. 돈이 따와 되게 되는 감성 릭톨로 톨톱에 톱술도 저랑 내시에 동아지 영어래. Tene teba singente jimsin shepe teba. Javi kunsho sungu yunden sheba te kadin tebe ke tene ngeshin rongwe ke teba te jagire. Jimsin shepe teba. Dame teba, ndobe teba, yichibe teba, shirme dokbe teba singente. Dame teba, ndobe teba. 마치 베게 되네 칠미덕비 대바생한테 줄이 쳇투거래 되네 존데 저런 사달람 그연데 라우르 줄이 쳇네 장주신 뭐 컴파터 상지 시그레다 냠네 제나 딱 아주 냠네 쳇데게 되네 제 레드 꼬르라페 칼치보지 탈바타 탐지 셴베게 드와케 셔돌로지 제가 때스 매바 연아 냠슬래 야 선바트 쪼보 초다 냠슬래 아 쪼보다 초나 냠슬라 되네 산다 봐 남주 봐 남의 집인다고 시하셔는 되네 영아요 말다 타르바 타르는 부차 그러다 때문에 타르바 내버려라 타르바 내버려다 나이 쳐라 타르벨람 때지 타바랑라 시에버치 사주소 돌아 샤로나 now exam 나 quick translate. Wow, over 2 hours. Wow. 2, huh?
If you really study, then you will come to know what the function of compassion is, what compassion does, and you'll understand the qualities of compassion and the benefits of compassion. You'll understand what the view of emptiness is. You'll come to know what that is. You will come to understand what it means and that it's possible to be liberated from the 3 realms of samsara, to be free from taking rebirth again and again among the 6 classes of beings. You'll understand faith, and you'll know why it's important to have faith. You'll be able to have faith in the 3 jewels with a reason, knowing the reason, understanding why you have faith, not just having faith without reason. We talk about sincere faith, the faith of longing, confident faith, and irreversible faith. Irreversible faith in particular will come about if you really learn and train in the Dharma. Then you'll understand the qualities of the path, that leads to awakening. You will give rise to those. They will arise within your experience. And then attaining omniscience is easy. Awakening is possible. It's actually possible to attain Buddhahood if you practice. It's important not just to focus on the goals of this life, But if you really want to practice, it means you have to practice in all circumstances, not just when you're upset, not just when things are difficult, but all the time. Practice when things are good, practice when things are difficult, not just when you feel like it. If you're able to practice genuinely all the time, not just when you feel like it, then attaining liberation is easy. Otherwise, attaining liberation is hard. But if you really put the teachings into practice, it is truly possible to attain liberation. The Buddha said, I taught you the path that leads to liberation, but whether you attain it or not, that's in your own hands. Whether you practice or not, that's in your own hands.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy your report. I'm so happy not only the Kebo Lama teach and not only they listen. Now the exam results are good. So I want to please our coordinators and translators and of course Kempo, all of you need to be aware and the future. I want them to have really rich knowledge of Dharma. So we need to discuss more exam and maybe future more detailed exam. Right now this is very roughly, extremely roughly, but it's you all did good job. But still, there's way to go. And Dharma Gyan, teaching is Dharma Gyan Dan. Dan means we offering, giving, no charging, no any kind of. We want to gift to whoever enters for free. Please join. Please study well. Please practice well. Okay? More? Ah. 다게 손놈데 semje 탐제 말을바 대가 탐제 빠네네 다들 개와 제버쇼 장쇼 쌈다 멘탈리션 장쇼 쫄라 샬버쇼 산제 남지 용송시 되젤레나 바와라쇼. Thank you very much. I want to see all of your face. Europe, some of you got quite early. Okay, one hand, I also testing, how interested students, how serious they are and how interested they are. I know if I give teaching in Nepal 10 o'clock, that means many Europeans need to get up really early. And Europeans, they like to sleep very late and get up very late. But it shows their interest is really, genuinely, it's like really, really hungry. So that touched my heart very deeply. So that is the teaching is touching each of your heart deeply. Hello, Lama La, 2-3 Lama also there. And wow, so many of you. Oh, yeah, it's very early. I know. So, okay, future I not do like this. Okay, future I will choose the right time. Yesterday and today, one hand really I'm checking how sincere. Wow, all of you can listen seriously. It looks like my thought touch your heart. I'm very appreciative. I'm very proud. I'm very happy. I have good students in the world. So we all work together and help to other, okay? Walk to other, guide to other. Let everybody to get free, real free, not fake free, real free. Wow, China, my goodness, so many. Amitobu. You're all very lucky. Oh, many Nepalese. Thomas, Dr. Thomas. Where's Dr. Thomas? Yeah, their father. Yeah, you have any comment, any criticizing my talk? Say something.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche. Please continue to teach us all and liberate all sentient beings. Thank you so much, Rinpoche.
You have no any complaint my talk.
I'm so happy, Rinpoche. Thank you.
What?
Wonderful.
Yeah, he is one of the really good scholar. Yeah, all of you good to know. When he came, he's a young man. Now he is also becoming old. How many years you are studying Buddha Dharma in Gompa?
33 years.
33. त्यति टाइम लाग्छ त ज्ञानी हुनेले कहाँ आज भोलि भन्दा आधा show me आधा Denmark, I love to see Denmark. This guy? California. Wow, California. Oh. California. No Sikkim, no Bhutan, no Ladakh. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, some. Australia. No, that's America. Gomde. Oh, Eric la, you're not looking to me, I'm looking to you. I really need to say, bottom of my heart, Eric did great job in this planet. My late father teaching went in the world because of him. And that time, 1980, we went world tour. That time he not understand my father's dialogue. I need to translate to him from my father's. But he picked up so fast. And hundreds books he translated. I really rejoice, Eric. I really rejoice to you. You did your life very meaningful. Meaningful. You are one of the richest. What is rich? Knowledge of Dharma. That is the real rich, ever rich. That is ever rich. Paper rich is for short, Paper rich is short. Even say, I trust to God, but it's American dollars, they wrote, I trust to God, but it's just temporary. Okay, very loving. Okay, thank you. Other. 또 아들아, 아니 여보 고소해, 출시돼 여보 고소해. 샘을 편보 좋아해. 샘을 편보 좋아해. 샘을 편보 좋아해. 야야야, 파 콘나바 캠보다 라마 망보지 300월다 아수랄라. 다법 주신님 파 로고 유다 컴도 쇼아. 야, 아다. I want to see it. 태티도. 빠르게 괜도. Malaysia, Singapore, 돼. 네. Kim Dawa. Kim Dawa, I'm happy seeing him. 내가시도 간시 Leon. Yeah. I know each of you, most of you I know, okay? So I will keep all of you in my heart, okay? How you like my talk? I want to hear.
Very precious, Rinpoche. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very good, Rinpoche.
A Chinese young one listening Dharma teaching, that is really amazing. One young one, Minkarse. That really touching. What is her name? So nice. This is good sign. Young generations are listening Dharma teaching is good signs. Also some Chinese young girls, they're chanting Heart Sutra in Chinese. It's very touching. Okay. Okay. Dirive. Diri yongente. Tashidele. Dawa. I know you chant. Okay. Dankeschön. 再见，谢谢，阿里嘎多，多谢大 ，Thank you， 拜拜。Oh, 1 minute. This love of teaching is what day? Day after tomorrow. Day after tomorrow is love of teaching in Asura. There's 8 months going 3-year retreat, and the one Kempo and the few Lopens are going 3-year retreat. Please rejoice. please rejoice. If you rejoice, you get same merit. Okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.